Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the controversy surrounding the Aunt Jemima brand and also the Uncle Ben's brand. These companies are talking about just completely getting rid of the logos and also creating different logos because these logos were based on racial stereotypes. So we're going to be talking and discussing about it and kind of sharing our opinions about it.
I just feel sad because Uncle Ben's rice is like what I grew up on. And then Aunt Jemima, like I really do like, it's not like the product's bad, but I also had a lot of Aunt Jemima before we got like the real, like organic maple syrup. And
Mhm.
it's different. It's the little things that you didn't realize were racist, like that was racist branding until, it's coming to light now, thank goodness.
Yes,
Um,
I didn't really I did use Aunt Jemima syrup, but I never really tried the pancakes or the Uncle Ben's rice. But I was under the impression that it was a black owned company till just recently when this all this news just surfaced. So I was completely shocked by the news that it was actually owned by a white company and it was based on racial stereotypes. And that kind of hurt me, to be honest. So just like, wow, this whole time I've just been like, oh yes, I'm grateful that this is like a black owned business. You know, the money is going into the black community. But now, like, I'm just completely thinking differently and thinking about everything that I've used that I thought was black owned.
That's true because then even I think cream of wheat is also in there and Mrs. Butterworth. I've never seen that, but when I looked up the image, like it is basically like a black maid or slave woman. That's like the outline of the bottle, which is definitely questionable. And it makes you wonder. I mean, I'm sure like people have talked about it before, but like no one saw this as a problem. That's like really weird. But when you look at it, I mean, I think for Aunt Jemima's case, like her great grandson, I think, was saying that yes, we need to denounce the racism component of it, but you don't want to ruin her legacy of being on that bottle. At least the
Hmm.
new one, because the image that they have on the latest one, which is a beautiful black woman on the image, it doesn't portray anything, but I think it's the history of it that portrays something bad.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, like, in that case, would it be something like, I mean, it makes you look at maybe like historical monuments. Are there
Hmm.
certain ones because of the history of it you should keep them up or remove them because the history is so controversial? And in this case, wrong because as like America is, it wasn't built. The original America of Native Americans was fine, but America, this country we have today, was founded on the principle of genocide and racism. So it's to be expected that like all of this is coming to light now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just shocked.
So people don't really have issues with the image. It's just the story behind it that they have an issue with. And I do understand where they're coming from, you know. It's sad because I really love the image. I love the image of the lady. I love the whole brand entirely. But at the same time, it's just like if it's based on, you know, racism, racial stereotype, then it's like, is that something we really want on our shelves? Is that something we want to support? And then,
Exactly. And I'm like, there's certain things that maybe should be taken away. Because from what I saw, they said for Uncle Ben, the reason it's a problem, like these are little details that I was not aware of. But they said that he's on the image, he's an older black man who wears a tie evocative of a servant. And then the reason that they used the term uncle in front of it was because that's what white Southerners would use to patronize black men. And then with Aunt Jemima, it would be the same thing. It was kind of like they called her the Aunt Jemima was basically the female equivalent to being an Uncle Tom, like being okay with, like, oh, I'm a slave, it's fine. It's almost like white what's the word for it? White propaganda.
yeah, basically the happy in-house slave that loved to serve her master was the
Yeah.
story
And I'm like
behind
that's and I'm like that's and when you look at it that way, I'm like, yeah, that's questionable. And it's just sad when you see like the beauty and innocence of certain things just like taken away. And I'm like, when you look at the history of it, it makes you wonder like what other products are using. Like when I found out that Cantu, for instance, that like all so many black women and men use, is white owned. And I'm like, yes, I mean, it's not having it being white owned, I guess, is not the problem. But I
Mm,
think it's the fact that it's just like, there's certain things like they, it almost feels like they went out of their way to not let people know that it's white owned. Like during
yeah,
the recent unrest in the country is how people are finding these things
we
out.
find
And I'm just like,
out.
why are you going out of your way now? Like, why would, if it's not, my thing is like, if it's not wrong, don't hide it. Don't
Yeah,
do
so I do
things that
think
you're not comfortable with them coming to light.
they were trying to hide it because they knew that if we found out that a lot of us wouldn't be buying the products, so they tried to definitely hide that to make sure that they were getting money from our community. And I don't really have an issue with it being white owned because a lot of people companies like to make sure they're targeting a specific audiences. But my
Right.
question is, why did you have to hide it? You hid it for a
Mhm.
purpose, for a reason. You knew that you probably wouldn't get as many of us supporting your company if you told us the truth. So you tried to make it like if it was like some black owned business all these years, and you kind of misled us to thinking that it was a black owned business because until when you told me, I never knew that this was like a white owned company. I thought it was owned by a black person, you know? So it's quite shameful that these companies try to do this just to capitalize on people's vulnerability and stuff like that.
And then it makes you wonder. I'm like, who's using? Because honestly, I haven't been in. Being completely honest, I haven't been in many I haven't had meals in many white homes. I think I can count on my left hand like how many white homes I've had a meal in. And
Hmm.
when it comes I don't know if this is something they use and they don't care about, or if this is something they just never thought about, or if this is something that people knew. Um, I mean, I wonder even just how people find out about these things. To be completely honest, where do you go and learn hey, by the way, this product is based off racist branding? It's just and how much more in America is based off that? Because when I looked at the Aunt Jemima syrup, I just saw a beautiful black woman. I didn't see any issues. But then when I
Yeah.
look at when this all came to light, I looked at the old caricature that they made, and I'm like, it was basically the most derogatory image of what a black woman would be. Like they made her look almost animalistic with these big red lips, and it's just it just that's not how any black woman has ever looked in her entire
They
life.
they base they
And
basically made her look like a clown, as something to be mocked.
exactly,
That's
it's
how the
terrible.
original Aunt Jemima used to look like. So this whole segregation, till integration, and people were trying to, they're trying to, stop racism and all that. So that's when they started to change her image. But in a way, it's the history behind it is still quite sad.
It is. It's not. It's unexpected. And I mean, it's different. I'm not African American, and I obviously with that a little bit of that removal, there are
Hmm.
certain things that it's just I feel hurt as a black person. I
Hmm.
can't imagine the hurt that African American people will feel and
Hmm.
continue to feel with all
And
of this stuff coming to light.
And in a way, I do think that these companies too, for the owners of Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben, they also hid that information from us as well.
Yeah,
They advertised it as if it was like a black owned company as well. Because I did it. A lot of
right.
people didn't know this history till just recently. So they were trying to hide it because they were making as much money for like a lot of money from our community.
That's true.
So that's why it's sad that this, image has to go. They're going to rebrand everything, but I do think it's necessary. What do
Yeah,
you think
it's
about
true. I think it's one of those. It's 100% necessary, and I definitely welcome and hope that more comes to light.
that?
With that, I know people are now looking at the whole Beethoven. Is he black? Is he not? And I'm just I don't know. This is one of those things in history that I'm like, people do your research. I have no idea. I don't know if
Hmm.
it's someone just came and modified an image to make him look black or to make him look white or whatever the case may
Hmm.
be. But I know Twitter is having a party right now with
So
that topic.
yeah,
But it makes you wonder how much of history is whitewashed.
yeah, Let me ask you a question. If they were to use another image, like a black image, would you be okay with it, or do you think they just need to completely
Well, my
rebrand
thing
it?
is that I don't think they need to change the image. That's the problem. I think they need to recognize the flaw, but keep the legacy of that person. At least, I don't know Uncle Ben history, but I think for the Aunt Jemima history, they should.
Hmm.
I think they should keep that because I think it's her great grandson, as he had mentioned, it's just like don't remove her legacy because
Hmm.
of your racist history. It's just like yes, what they did, they don't print that caricature of women anymore,
Hmm.
but I think they need to recognize that and instead say like, okay, Aunt Jemima is not this person. Or maybe I think what they could do is change. Maybe I say maybe not change the image, but change the name.
Change,
Because
yes.
Aunt
I think they
Jemima wasn't a
change the name.
person, but I think it was
Mhm.
Anna Harrington was the real woman who is that on that image. So maybe instead of calling it Aunt Jemima, call it like the Anna Harrington or something.
I think the reason why let me know if I'm wrong, but the reason why they call it Aunt Jemima is because they used to call in-house like black women slave mammies. I think that's what someone
Yeah.
was explaining. So that name is derived from the name Mammy, like Aunt Jemima. So if they change
Mm,
the name, it would be a little bit better than completely changing the image. So I think you are right.
yeah. So to me, I think I'm like, let's change that image. And the same with Uncle Ben's. Like the product is good. It is like
Mhm.
that's what it is. So it's the product's not the problem. The person is not the problem. It's the connotation of this derogatory name that's the problem. So if people don't recognize that, then I think that's where the problem lies. It's just like talking to a wall. You want to make sure that people understand why it's wrong, not just change it just because, oh, people are upset, they're not going to buy our product, let's just change it to something else. Like, no,
Yeah,
that's not
fortunately.
it. People will still buy it, but I think what people need to understand is people want to be heard. Feelings are hurt. Like, people need to be heard now. So people need to just stop and listen.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately and unfortunately, they are definitely considering completely like rebranding, taking away the logo, the name, everything. So how do you feel about that? Like, would you be sad
I
if
think
it's
that's
completely?
ridiculous, and I'm not happy with that. I will sign whatever petition it needs to be to have that not have the case. I say change the name. Either you
Mhm.
change the name or remove the product altogether.
Mhm. That's true. Or
Because
maybe
if they change everything else, then I'm like they're not understanding why people are upset.
I think personally for me, they should change the name and then a portion of like the profit should go into the black community, like, offering
Exactly.
scholarships and all that. I think that would kind of make up
And to
for all
whoever like, if her, I wonder if her family's making money off of that. Like their families are making money off of that product. Because I think Aunt Jemima was the only person that was real.
no, so
Uncle
they
Ben, I'm pretty sure wasn't real.
No, they said that Uncle Ben's he was paid $50 for that image and that was it. The family doesn't have
Seriously,
any ownership. Yeah, he was paid $50 for the
they
image
need to
back
pay them.
then. So the family doesn't have any ownership. Same as Aunt
Yeah,
Jemima, she has no ownership, but she would just pay money for the image and that's it.
yeah, I think they need to pay.
Yeah.
I
They need to
really
pay
think
the
that's
family or
necessary
give them.
because that'd be too much if they don't pay it. I think that's too much.
I just personally think they should get ownership and they should like give some part of their profit to the black community. And I think that would definitely make up for all these
I don't know
years of
about
them
ownership. I don't know how feasible that is, honestly. Maybe like a
giving
share.
a share. Yeah, so like a share or something like that.
But yeah, it's different. I think there's like a lot that needs to be done, and this is the workings of showing just like how much of a problem this is in the country.
And yep, we're just this everything is just coming up in the surface and it's really showing people's true colors and intentions and it's been
Mhm.
crazy, like a crazy couple of weeks.
Very eye opening.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for, sticking with us during this podcast. Please leave us a comment down below. Just share your thoughts on this whole controversy. Like our video and also subscribe to our channel for more videos.